And good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to today's episode of Law, News, and Laughter. In the news today, we have what exactly is the connection between a plane, tomatoes, and someone's ex? Stalking, as it turns out. There's a whole bunch of alligators sitting on a porch in Florida. And why the hell are they just realizing that taking away mobile phones during school leads to more learning time? Let's find out. All this and more in today's episode of Law, News, and Laughter, people. Let's get stuck into it. Okay, for our top story of stupidity, Michael Arnold, 65, is accused of stalking a New York woman from his light aircraft for 4 years and pelting her home with tomatoes from above. A New Hampshire man has been arrested after allegedly using a small propeller plane to stalk a woman in New York from the air for 4 years and pelting her home with tomatoes from above. Michael Arnold, 65, was charged with aggravated stalking, impeding and providing false information to a police officer after terrorizing Cassie Willis from the sky since 2019. Arnold would fly his single-engine Cessna 180 out to allegedly stalk the victim's New York home, according to authorities in Bennington County, Vermont. Willis, who lives in Schenectady, said that the ordeal is he is terrorizing us. He flies so close to the house that it feels like he's going to go through it. Oh, doggo. It's a nightmare that just won't stop. She accused him of waking her family up at 7 a.m. 3 times a week with the sound of the aircraft over her house. Her roof, windows, and doors would rattle from the flybys. Arnold appeared in Victoria's Vermont Supreme Court last week and pled not guilty. He previously posted his $5,000 bond and was ordered not to go within 300 feet of his plane. See, how... That to me doesn't look like it's particularly close. Schenectady. Oh, Schenectady! Oh, that's how you spell Schenectady. Okay. An FBI agent in Albany reported Arnold was keeping his plane at the Bennington airport and he was served with a temporary restraining order in the summer. But Willis reported seeing Arnold flying over her home on September 28. She called the police and the FBI said the FAA found the plane in Bennington. Well, given that's where he was supposedly keeping it, I'm not really shocked by that. Officers were able to determine that Arnold was in fact flying his aeroplane from the William H. Morse State Airport and last seen flying west towards New York several days earlier. Video then showed Arnold flying out of the airport and heading towards her New York home, an affidavit said. Arnold denied that he was flying the plane but refused to say who the pilot was. According to WCAX, Arnold said, "I might be able to, but I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. If they don't want to get involved, I can't get them involved." The man allegedly also stalked Willis from the ground. In May, he was caught driving by her house, and he was eventually arrested and charged with an additional count of stalking. News of the weird. Yeah. So there you go. That's the link between a plane and a whole bunch of tomatoes. This one I kind of feel sorry for, but at the same time I don't. Long Island school bus driver caught drinking on the job didn't know that White Claws were alcoholic. It was a mistake. These things are white. These things are alcoholic. Yeah, it says specifically there on the can, contains alcohol. Not that particularly difficult. A Long Island school bus driver caught drinking while bringing students home last week will not face charges because police believe her story that she grabbed a hard seltzer without realizing that it was alcoholic. The 60-year-old driver, Amal Hana, told News 12 Long Island that she is teetotal because she's undergoing chemotherapy for cancer, which also leaves her unable to taste if drinks are alcoholic. She said she grabbed a White Claw from the fridge she shares with a roommate in She grabbed a White Claw from the fridge that she shares with a roommate, thinking she was drinking a regular fruit-flavored seltzer while driving kids home from Smithtown High School West on Wednesday. It was just a mistake. It was a mistake, the newly fired driver said through tears, fearing she could end up homeless from going through chemo without a job. For people like me that don't drink, how are they going to know that this is alcohol, she asked, pointing out how they only warned it in very small print. Look, to be fair, it does specifically say that it's small print on the back, but there's a circle on the front that specifically says 95 calories, gluten-free, 4.5% alcohol. So, kind of just read. Poor thing, though. I've been crying and crying. I don't even have any more tears, she told News 12. Police believe her story, and she will not be charged, a spokesperson for Suffolk County Police Department confirmed to Newsday. However, she was fired from her job of 15 years and is now not sure how she'll be able to support herself amid chemo. I'm frightened. I'm going to be on the street because of a mistake, she said through sobs. She said transporting the children every day was a bright spot in her life. I love the kids. I love my company. I go in the morning so happy, see the kids, say good morning, how are you, give them a big smile, Hannah said, adding that it makes my life happy when I see the kids going to school happy. A parent who spoke to News 12 also described her as so sweet, saying that she's always kind to the students. I can't imagine she would ever do anything to harm them. I think it was a very honest mistake. Smithtown Central City School District Superintendent Mark Sakur announced last week that the drinking driver had was promptly taken from the bus and a different driver completed the route. Hannah has since been fired by the WE Transporting Company, the Long Island-based school bus company that employed her, a spokesperson confirmed to the Post last week. Really? Fired by the company, the Long Island-based company that employed her. Well, how the fuck else were they going to fire her? Anyway. The alleged conduct is completely unacceptable and the driver has been immediately removed from the service, the spokesperson said. Smithtown School District officials also said she will no longer transport any Smithtown student. A student's safety is one of utmost importance to the Smithtown Central School District, and we will remain steadfast in our efforts to create a safe environment for all our students. Sakur told the parents in an email, noting that the district has a zero tolerance for this behaviour. Sean was a roommate. I hope not. I really do. Kanye is secretly fighting to trademark the phrase use, which he plans to use for everything from music to restaurants and financial services. Kanye West is understood to be working on trademarking the phrase use for use on everything from music to restaurants and financial services. The rapper 46 is thought to be behind the filing submitted on October 2, linked to a company called Oxpaha Inc. The LLC is listed as the music producer's office address, located on LA's Melrose Avenue. The 26 filings, which DailyMail.com has confirmed are real, do not specify exactly what the plans are. But the Grammy Award winner, who performs under the name Ye, appears to be leaving nothing to chance and has earmarked it for all uses across several sectors. These include music and audio, entertainment content, financial services, beauty products, restaurants, and more. Other more bizarre requests include using it for use on common metals and their alloys. Dude's going to start selling gold. As well as industrial analysis and research. He's just got enough money to throw it out there that he just wants the name, taken for everything. The choice of the frame use has raised eyebrows given West's previous anti-Semitic comments, which have seen a host of brands drop him or an attempt to distance themselves. Among these were Adidas, Gap, Def Jam Records, and his honorary alma mater, the School of Art Institute of Chicago, who rescinded his doctorate. West sparked outrage last year when he claimed that he loved Hitler and denied the Holocaust ever took place. This is in poor taste given the current news cycle. The comments made on an episode of Alex Jones's InfoWars podcast left even the famous controversial host stunned. West told the show in December, I see good things about him. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table. I forgot about all this. I'd sort of put it out of my mind. Later, he said the Germans had a really good leader at one point and denied that Hitler had ordered the death of 6 million Jews. Ugh. Why is all this in here? What the fuck does any of that have to do with him trademarking the goddamn word? Moving on. Sovereignty never ceded has been a common phrase throughout the referendum campaign, but what does it actually mean? It became a well-used rallying cry by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people at marches and events, and the term sovereignty has been brought up a lot throughout the referendum debate. It's a proud exclamation used by Indigenous people to express their enduring connection to culture and represents ongoing calls for Indigenous self-determination, the right for First Nations peoples to manage their own affairs. If the no vote succeeds, some First Nation activists believe sovereignty will be next on the agenda. If the referendum goes down, they've set aside that $5.8 million for a treaty convention. Aboriginal sovereignty is going to come up in that, and how sovereignty can be expressed through a treaty, said Puyallup man Michael Mansell. But for others, achieving Indigenous sovereignty is not straightforward. Indigenous sovereignty is a strong legal and political claim that will never be considered, according to Hannah McGlade, a Kurran-Minang activist and academic and human rights legal expert. In Western law, sovereignty is defined as the ultimate authority of a state to govern itself. When the British set foot on the continent, they did not acknowledge the First Nations people, who did not acknowledge that they had legal ownership over the land, and a treaty or agreement was never signed. Dr. McGlade said the British unlawfully declared their sovereignty over the Australian continent. Hello, Dr. McGlade. It was about how they would take sovereignty to acquire lands that didn't belong to them, and that's not something the Indigenous people in Australia were known to do. First Nations people were known to respect their own lands. There was deep respect for the land and for the people from that land. Dr. McGlade said First Nations people practiced and defined sovereignty differently to Western nations. We have, of course, the white system of law and the Indigenous system of law, which is very much based in spirituality and culture. Indigenous people have a very ancient culture dating back to 10,000s of years in this country, with a very close connection to the land and strong rules governing relationships and responsibilities amongst land and people. Clearly, Indigenous sovereignty has never been ceded or given up. To Walbunga elder Vivian Mason, sovereignty means something different entirely. When she was a little girl, her nan taught her about the culture of the law of her people, often written in Indigenous communities as law. She taught me the stuff about family connections, kinships, what groups were here and there. She told me a lot of mythological stories that taught us where to camp and what to eat, she said. That we are custodians of our country, the land rules what we do. We have to look after it, and that is our responsibility. Vivian lives on her ancestral lands in New South Wales' far south coast, part of the Yuin Nation. Her responsibility is to pass on cultural knowledge to the next generation. People look to you for guidance and advice. It's a job you have to do, especially when it is handed to you from an old auntie. You have to step up. For 65,000 years, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have maintained a connection to the land despite decades of government policy that forbade ancient practices. We can only hand down what we were told. It might not be as strong as it was before colonisation, but we'll try and keep up our laws and customs. Within the voice referendum debate, some have argued that the advisory body would undermine Indigenous sovereignty, but this is fiercely contested by others in the Indigenous community. The historic Uluru Statement, which even the people that are from Uluru do not want called the Uluru Statement, from the Heart Declaration, believes that the two can coexist. But while Vivian believes that the spiritual notion in the spiritual notion, she doesn't like to describe it with the term sovereignty. I automatically think of the crown and I think of colonisation. They may have labelled a lot of our people as king or queen or that, but that was never that, she said. For generations, Indigenous leaders have been fighting for their sovereignty to be recognised. This has been expressed in many ways. A current example is Senator Lydia Thorpe of the Gunai, Gunditj Mara and Djab Wurrung nations, who has thrust the calls for sovereignty back into the national spotlight with what she describes as the Black BLAK sovereignty movement. But decades earlier, it was a cause led by many influential activists, including Palawa man Michael Mansell. There was a massively exciting period about the Aboriginal movement in the streets influenced with the international community, prime ministers and the public, he told the ABC from his home in Launceston. He made international headlines when he petitioned Queen Elizabeth for the land rights, and a decade later created his own Aboriginal passport, which saw him travel to Libya. Mr. Mansell defines sovereignty as the right of a distinct people to rule themselves on a given territory, and he says Aboriginal people had that prior to colonisation. Just because we haven't been able to express our sovereignty in the last 200 years does not mean we have lost it, he said. It just means we haven't had the ability to carry on our practice. Hello, Mr. Mansell. He said there were many ways the Aboriginal sovereignty can be recognised. He has pushed for an alternative approach that would recognise a seventh state made up of Aboriginal-owned and native title lands governed by First Nations people. There's room for more than one state, which happens to be Aboriginal, where we might rely on our traditional forms of governance. So can both nations of sovereignty coexist? According to Dr. McGlade, it would be impossible for Indigenous sovereignty to be recognised within the Australian and international law. There's an outstanding issue, a legal issue of sovereignty that has never been properly addressed. It's been raised in the courts, and more recently in the Mabo High Court decision, the High Court said that it could not examine Indigenous sovereignty. In terms of Australian nation-states, the likelihood of ever negotiating with Indigenous people as sovereign people, now or in the future, is near impossible. We missed the boat in many respects in that way that colonisation took place in Australia. For many Aboriginal people, it's about the unfinished business of Australia's colonial foundations. However, Dr. McGlade believes Indigenous people can assert their sovereignty in the form of self-determination. I think the right for self-determination for Aboriginal people to really manage our own business and affairs, it's a right that sits alongside sovereignty, but not in the full sense of a sovereign nation. It might not sound as glam as Aboriginal sovereignty, but it's highly significant. And yes, of course, I was covering this because the referendum is coming up this Saturday. The issue with Aboriginal sovereignty is, again, it's the same issue that was raised during the debate. There are 250 different clans or mobs, however they want to describe themselves. How do you have a state or a nation that is ruled by a particular group if they can't establish their own form of, well, government, basically? I mean, going to start making Confederate passports. That's terrible. It didn't work. Look at Canada. Interesting. Okay. All right. Moving on. Flying through these, which is good. Back on the bus. Mama Bear mode. Navarre woman charged in school bus dispute shares her perspective. The mother who was arrested last week following an altercation at her child's school bus stop in Santa Rosa County is speaking out for the first time since the alleged incident. The 33-year-old was charged with misdemeanor trespassing and disturbing the peace after trying to get on the bus, ignoring the bus driver's orders to get away from the doors. On Tuesday, Santa Rosa County Schools Transportation Director confirmed camera footage from the bus was used in the investigation. Stewart is now speaking out through a lengthy social media post that sheds light on her side of the story. Stewart says she went into Mama Bear mode while sticking up for her children. Stewart told Ware News that she's been advised not to speak to the media pending the outcome of the case. She did, however, give her side of the story in a Facebook page of on her Facebook page in nearly 2,000 words, sharing her thoughts on the incident that led to her arrest. Yes, I got arrested, she writes. Yeah, it was because I went Mama Bear mode to protect my kids. Now you can read the story if you want, straight from the source. She goes on to say that her daughter called from the bus complaining of a headache, which her daughter claimed was caused by the bus driver screaming at her. Stewart says she heard the excess screaming on the phone. My daughter called me from the bus complaining of a headache that she was getting from the bus driver screaming, and I could actually hear the bus driver screaming at the top of her lungs over the intercom. Stewart acknowledged that a previous incident involving her daughter led to the bus driver to take disciplinary action against her, describing her child lightly accidentally scratching another child's neck with her nail. A previous incident happened 2 days before with my son and daughter and the neighbour's son at the bus stop. They were kids being kids and playing, a little roughhousing with the backpacks, but the kids being kids. The boys had my daughter's backpack kicking it. She reached to get it back and lightly accidentally scratched his neck with her nail. No blood was drawn, no scabbing over happened, it was barely even visible. Wait, was it the neighbour's kid or was it her brother? In which case, if it's her brother, I consider that a family matter. Stewart says after getting off the phone with her daughter, she rushed to the bus stop describing herself as calm as could be, saying I was very respectful, as you will hear on the audio if the video gets released. She admits to preventing the driver from closing the door and telling the driver, I guess we're going to make time to talk about it now, aren't we? Oh, no. I had my hand or arm propped on the door, but not in a threatening way. At some point, she attempted to shut the door, and yes, I stepped onto the bottom step and told her, I guess we're going to make time to talk about it now, aren't we? This is the point I got pissed off and stopped being polite. Stewart also criticised the responding deputy, saying she did a terrible job and that she did not like that I was not intimidated by her. I don't recall exactly what I said to her, but I said I'm not dealing with your attitude anymore when I'm dealing with hers. And we had a legit stare off for about 5 seconds. She did not like that I was not intimidated by her. Stewart received an outpouring of support following the news of her arrest, but not all are in favour of her actions. One person wrote, parents standing out in the heat waiting on or worried about their kids just so you can have a power struggle / temper tantrum. Well, if they wouldn't let her take the kid off the bus, yeah, there should be cameras on all buses. None of this would have happened had you handled it the appropriate way. Jumping on the bus, acting crazy in front of my kid and other children isn't the way. Well, I think in this case they need to, I think that they need to... Not on a bus. They weren't on the bus, Bella. It specifically states the kids were at the bus stop. They were not on the bus at the time. Others believed the fellow parents at the school lashed out at Stewart, saying none of this would have happened had you handled it appropriately. Anytime somebody enters the bus, responsibility between us and the school board is the safety of our kids, said Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office. In the report, it showed several of the kids were on the bus getting very upset and scared, so the safety of the children on the bus is paramount. That's a problem. Weir News asked the school district for any further comment and did not have anything to add. A judge has ordered that Stewart have no contact with the bus driver or step foot on a school bus. Her next court appearance is scheduled for November. Jesus Christ. Look, it may well be the case. I can't say one way or another whether or not she was being a Karen. What? Oh, fuck off, Marty. Honestly, I don't think this was handled well by anybody, frankly. If she was there and her kids were still on the bus, she should have just been allowed to take them and leave. So, yeah, I don't know. Balls of thunder, Jesus Christ. 10 charged, 9 arrested in a fraud scheme at a Michigan City fast food restaurant. The LaPorte County Sheriff's Office has charged 10 people and arrested 9 of them in connection with a scheme where multiple Hardee's employees allegedly used stolen money from customers to bail out inmates. I'm sorry, what now? In total, the 10 suspects are facing 20 felony charges, including fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and criminal organization activity. Police are still looking for one of the suspects. According to the LaPorte County Sheriff's Office, jail staff noticed last month that suspiciously large amounts of funds were being placed into the accounts of inmates at the LaPorte County Jail from a source outside the jail. The same inmates were reportedly bonded out of the jail almost immediately and leaving with the remaining balance on a jail-issued debit card. This led to an investigation where officials discovered a fraud scheme involving multiple employees from the Hardee's in Michigan City, as well as several other people. Police did not provide the address for the restaurant, but the only Hardee's restaurant in Michigan City, they named it. Named and shamed. 5223 Franklin Street. Officials say the Hardee's employees involved in the scheme were taking pictures of customers' debit cards and credit cards that paid in the drive-thru and were fraudulently using those cards to place money into inmates' accounts that had low bails set. The inmates would then bond out of jail, take the jail-issued debit card with the extra money on it, and withdraw the remaining money at an ATM. Deputies say that a total of $14,700 was charged fraudulently, and the victims were working with their financial institutions to get their money back. As a result of the investigation, 9 arrest warrants were issued for Darren Ward, Prince Arnold, Kristen Vanchoyik, Madison Zuck, Anissa Higginbotham, Holly La Chapelle, Carissa Beelaw, Lawrence Armstrong, Moesha Monique Savannah Payne, Dylan Scott. I have no idea why the hell I bothered actually reading that out. Just saw a story that feedback is now a bad word. I'm sorry, what now? Police say Scott, pictured below, is the only suspect who has not yet been arrested. If you have any information on her whereabouts, okay, so there is an arrest warrant and they want her, they just don't know where she is. Call the Fugitive Apprehension Team, the FAST team, or Michigan Crime Stoppers. Oh my god. Like, on the one hand, it's clever. On the other hand, holy shit. And it's not like Eddie, like... What? You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm going to leave it alone. A man has taken his choice of animals a little bit too seriously after shooting and injuring 80 hawks to save a bunch of squirrels. A Rhode Island man is facing federal charges after prosecutors said he shot at and injured and killed red-tailed hawks and Cooper hawks around his property to protect his squirrels, a press release from the office of the U.S. Attorney Zachary A. Cunha said on Monday. Robert Ferreira, 64, was charged with 4 counts of hunting, taking, and killing, or attempting to kill migratory birds in violation of the U.S. Migratory Bird Treaty Act. According to charging documents, Ferreira repeatedly used a pump-action pellet airgun to shoot at hawks in his backyard between October 1st, 2018 and April 18, 2021. Ferreira told the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service agency believed he shot 50 to 80 hawks during the period because they threatened squirrels that visited the squirrel feeders on his property. He said some hawks flew away and others stayed in the area. They're just beautiful unto themselves, but they also play a really important role in the ecosystem, said Zach Layden, biologist at US Fish and Wildlife. Layden added that the hawks tend to avoid people and are not a threat when left alone. Court documents said that the neighbours reported hearing popping sounds around Ferreira's property that were consistent with gunshots on several occasions. Neighbours also reported at least 8 injured and deceased hawks on or near the property. The hawks are a protected species under the U.S. Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which protects certain migratory birds and forbids hunting, capturing, or killing these birds unless authorized by permit. According to the Department of Justice, hunting, taking, killing, or attempting to kill migratory birds is a misdemeanor. Ferreira is expected to return to court on October 12. He faces charges punishable by up to 6 months in prison and a fine of up to $15,000. His feeders attracted the squirrels, which attracted the hawks. The guy is nuts. Yep. Okay, so from one endangered species to one little more dangerous species. 9 alligators rescued from a Pennsylvania home after a neighbor finds one on their front porch. Okay, that's just... And you'll think we're weird. That is an alligator on the main road. All right. See you later, alligators. A Pennsylvania man opened his front door to find a large gator stretched across the threshold earlier this week, leading to at least 9 other chompers being rescued from a nearby home. It was definitely crazy. It would have been rude awakening it if I'd walked out and seen it. Tony Glaski of Kiski Township told WTAE of the moment that he learned about the alligator that was spotted on his front porch on Thursday. The reptile, which he estimated to be 5 to 6 feet long, was first seen by his neighbor. He had just been discharged from hospital on Thursday, so the neighbor called the 60-year-old's friends in order to warn him. They said, "They called me, and whatever you do, Tony, don't go out on your porch. There's a big gator." Damn. It was stretched out in front of his doorway. He couldn't get out of his house if he wanted to, one of his friends, Jason, said to the outlet. He, however, was shockingly calm about the gator, which was eventually removed by the authorities, and told the Tribune Live that he was not surprised by the jawsome visitor because of his other neighbor, Dominique Hayward, who was known to keep about 10 of the scaly creatures at his house down the road. It was just a matter of time before they got loose. I ended up being the unfortunate one. It had to be up on my porch. Hayward, 26, was arrested by the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission last month for improper sale and transportation of certain animals, the Tribune reported. He posted some of the scaly pets for sale on Craigslist recently and referred to them as cool. As of Friday, he remains in custody in Armstrong County for violating parole. Was it a parole condition for him to not have alligators? Like, seriously? So, as a result of the alligator sighting on the porch, authorities launched a full-scale roundup of the 9 remaining gators left at Hayward's property. Armstrong County Humane Officer Amber Phillips told the Tribune on Friday morning. The dirty backyard pool enclosure had broken, resulting in the reptiles running amok. It was an exhausting and slow process, but it was completed and no one was injured. The alligators may not be the ideal pet, but they are creatures that matter and deserve the best if nature can't be there for them. I'm relieved that they're in a much better environment and are going to live a life that they deserve in full when they're transported to a sanctuary. Wow. The gators were all piled into the back of a truck for transport to Nate's Reptile Rescue, where they are being cleaned and prepared for transfer to sanctuaries in the south, a photo obtained by the Tribune showed. One of them even had its mouth taped shut. Well, that's generally how you move them. His largest pet alligator, Thor, is still inside the house and is not a threat to the public. I'm sorry, what now? They couldn't get the alligator Thor out of the house? Is it, or did they just decide that he could still have one? But he's in jail. Who's feeding it? The raid on Hayward's property is the latest in a string of hair-raising gator incidents in the Kiski area. The first, nicknamed Chomper, was rescued from the Kiski River in August and will serve as an animal ambassador, the outlet explained. But a second gator, a baby male named Neo, remains at large after his owner, Austin Randall, unsuccessfully tried to give him to Hayward. The gator's on house arrest. In Pennsylvania, it is legal to own non-native amphibians and reptiles as long as they are not released, according to the Tribune. There is also no state permit required to keep gators and similar creatures. The state does not regulate reptiles. In the wake of Chomper and Neo's apparent escapes, Kiski Township officials moved to clamp down on the gator ownership in the area, but were quickly met with sharp-toothed criticism. "We don't need any more rules and regulations here! We moved to the country to live in the country," said one township resident, after a contentious township supervisory meeting last month. The backlash to the proposed rules, which one official admitted were put forward prematurely, was so intense that the supervisor ripped up a copy of the draft in half during the discussion. Neighbours, meanwhile, are relieved that Hayward's gators are mostly cleared away and bound for more appropriate homes. It'll be a lot safer around here. You never know when they're going to come loose. I'm really concerned that that large gator, the one that's in the house, that may or may not actually be being fed, might break a window or something. So that's, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Okay. A 70-year-old woman who allegedly stabbed a man to death with a 16-inch blade hidden in a cane can stand trial, according to the judge. The 70-year-old Philadelphia woman who stabbed a man to death with a 16-inch blade hidden in her cane. Look at that shit. Just look at that shit. Like, holy hell. Can stand trial. The Mercury newspaper reported on Friday that Montgomery County Judge Todd N. Barnes determined the prosecutors presented sufficient evidence during the preliminary hearing to move the case forward to trial. An initial trial date is scheduled for November 9. Hang on, where do they say this one was? Philadelphia. Okay, so the odds of it being televised. Meh. Renee Petro is charged with third-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and possession of an instrument of crime with intent, according to court records. Testimony from the detective and surveillance footage from a nearby business that captured the alleged stabbing were key to the case moving forward. Her defense attorney tried to get the murder charge tossed for lack of evidence to no avail. As reported, officers from the Lower Merion Township Police Department were called at around 1:30 a.m. on June 10 for a stabbing at the intersection of Cricket Avenue and Cricket Terrace, an arrest affidavit obtained by Law and Crime said. They found the victim, Michael Thomas Sides, bleeding profusely from his upper torso. He was rushed to the hospital where he died about an hour later. Dan Rogers, one of Sides' friends, told the detectives that he was sucker punched early in the night by a mutual friend, later identified as Jason DiPietro. Her son, nephew, some sort of relation. Sides then said that he was going to seek him out. During the altercation, the victim was preventing Jason DiPietro from getting into a white car where his parents Renee and Michael got out of the car, according to the affidavit. Rogers saw Renee lunge towards the victim, causing him to fall to the ground, bleeding with what appeared to be a black cane that fell apart when she struck the victim while he was on the ground. Lovely. Rogers stated that it was then apparent to him that the female stabbed the victim. Following the stabbing, Rogers stated that the female was attempting to remove the license plate from the vehicle, and the older white male, the female and Jason DiPietro, departed from the scene in the white sedan, believed to be a Nissan. Surveillance video also shows that she was bending the license plate upward in an attempt to obscure any witnesses from identifying it, the charging document said. Interesting. Didn't charge him with carrying a concealed weapon. Guess the sword's illegal up there. Oh, I don't know. Was she walking like a pimp? The surveillance video shows her bending the license plate. A few hours later, detectives went to the DiPietro home in Philadelphia. It was self-defense. He came looking for trouble and he got it, said Michael, according to the affidavit. Renee told detectives she got a call earlier in the night from her son, who was upset and crying. So she took her baseball bat and walking cane along with her husband and drove to the location in their Nissan. She told detectives that when her son tried to get into the car, a big man prevented him from doing so and was assaulting him, the affidavit said. She got out of her car to defend her son and said when the man came at him, she poked him and he fell to the ground before driving away with her son in their Nissan, and detectives wrote. Renee DiPietro is out of jail, having posted her $50,000 bond. In his obituary, the family described Sides as a beautiful person who never saw the bad in anyone. He was a kind soul that loved animals and would take the jacket off his back for someone in need. Michael lived life to the fullest and would enjoy having good conversation with anyone at any time. Nissan! He is loved and will be missed by all that knew him forever, the obituary said. Okay, so here's the affidavit. Actually, you know what? I'll open that up there. Arrest affidavit for probable cause. On Saturday, June 10, 2023, at approximately 1:33 a.m., members of the Township Police Department were dispatched to a stabbing at the intersection of Cricket Avenue and Cricket Terrace, located at the Ardmore section of Lower Merion Township. Police officer arrived on the scene, located the victim, Michael Sides, unresponsive on the ground, hemorrhaging from his upper torso with CPR in process. Ugh. Narberth ambulance transported the victim to I don't fucking care. Medical center, where he was pronounced dead at 2:28. The Lower Merion Township Police Department secured the area. They commenced a joint investigation into the apparent homicide. Montgomery Detective Richard Hoffner and Police Detective David Herbst interviewed Dan Rogers, a friend of the victim. Rogers stated that earlier in the evening, a mutual friend of Rogers and the victim was sucker punched by a male later identified as Jason DiPietro. This occurred at John Henry's pub, located at 98 Cricket Avenue, Ardmore. Rogers stated that later in the evening, Rogers heard the victim tell him that he was going to seek out the male that assaulted his friend. Rogers stated that he had observed the victim engage in a physical altercation. He attempted with Jason as he attempted to enter the backseat of the white sedan that stopped at the intersection. During the altercation, Rogers stated an older white male with grey hair exited the driver's side of the vehicle, and an older female with a dark complexion exited the passenger side. Rogers stated the female began to strike the victim with what appeared to be a black cane that fell apart. So it wasn't even properly actually constructed. Say Chevrolet? Chevrolet. What's wrong with Chevrolet? Am I not saying Chevrolet properly? Yeah, see, Captain Bipto, the thing that you've said here is if you're going to keep pronouncing US English. I know there's a whole bunch of you watching from the US, but, you know, if you're going to not get your heads out of your asses and understand that other countries may pronounce things differently, and you're going to try and force your interpretation onto someone that does not live in your country, well, we may have a little bit of conflict. But, I mean, let's face it, with everything that's going on in the world right now, arguing over the pronunciation of Nissan, Chevrolet, you know, it's probably the most innocuous thing we could be doing right now. It's pronounced Chevy. You're missing the R. Chevrolet. Good God. Okay, look, does not matter. Rogers stated it was then apparent to him that the female stabbed the victim. Following the stabbing, Rogers stated the female was attempting to remove the license plate from the vehicle, and the older white male, the female, and Jason DiPietro departed the scene in the white sedan. Detectives located potential surveillance cameras at the Beyond and Hello Ardmore cannabis dispensary. It's Holden to me. Yes, it is. This is true. US people can't pronounce US English. The victim, where are we? The video depicts him attempting to enter the back seat of the white Nissan. The victim prevents him from entering the vehicle, engaging in physical assault with him. Okay. Probably would have been good to have Branko to talk about this one. This is sounding like it might be defense of another person. I don't know how that works in, what was this, Philadelphia? What the laws are around it, but yeah. The video depicts the white male wearing glasses exit the vehicle, and a person exit the front passenger's door. It partially depicts the victim engaging in physical altercation with Jason DiPietro, and then with an older female who stabbed the victim in what appeared to be a long-edged weapon. The victim immediately falls to the ground, where he was later found by first responders. Following the stabbing, a female then appeared to strike the victim after he was on the ground with the weapon. Okay, that's not self-defense. The older white male re-entered the driver's door. Jason entered the driver's rear passenger door, and the female soon entered the front passenger door before the vehicle departed. Video surveillance depicted the vehicle registration plate of the parking vehicle as being obscured as it had been bent upwards. Detectives suspect this was intentional as an act to prevent any witnesses from obtaining the registration of the vehicle departing the scene. Just wait until someone tells the Aussie Overlaw'd about the 6 different meanings of a southern bless your heart. Oh, I know some of the meanings of bless your heart. Let me see if they've got the video. I don't necessarily want to watch the stabbing because that'll get us yeeted. But, no, that's just a probable cause affidavit again. Further analysis of the video determined that it took the male driver and Jason DiPietro approximately 15 seconds to get into the vehicle after the victim fell on the ground. It took the female approximately 38 seconds to enter the passenger seat. Prior to entering the vehicle, it was apparent she was at the rear of the vehicle where the license plate was displayed. Her activity at the location was out of camera view. It was apparent that the male driver was looking at the unresponsive hemorrhaging victim while waiting for the female to occupy the vehicle. Detectives were able to identify the parents of Jason DiPietro as Renee DiPietro, 70, and Michael DiPietro, 73. They've got no more fucks to give. They're going to wind up if they wind up in prison, it's a life sentence. Detectives compared photographs of them into surveillance footage, confirmed that the driver confirmed them, basically. On Saturday, 10 June 2023 at 8 a.m., Dr. Gregory McDonald, a forensic pathologist, conducted an autopsy on the body of Michael Sides. Dr. McDonald opined that the cause of death was a stab wound to the chest and that the manner of death was homicide. At approximately 7:45 a.m., detectives made contact with Michael, Renee, and Jason at their residence. After detectives introduced themselves, Michael DiPietro stated it was self-defense. He came looking for trouble and got it. Don't talk without your lawyer present. Like, holy shit. Consciousness of guilt through tampering with the license plate and driving away. Well, that's just one of the many issues that I see here. Renee DiPietro directed the detectives to where the weapon utilized was located inside the residence. She agreed to be transported to the police department for an interview. Detectives located the... How do you pronounce it? Nissan Versa, bearing Pennsylvania registration JHT 1488 at the rear of the residence. The registration plate appeared to have been flattened to give it a somewhat normal appearance, unlike when it departed from the crime scene. On Saturday, June 10, 2023, at approximately 9:02 a.m., they interviewed the mother at the police station. She stated that she received a phone call from her son, who was upset and crying on the phone. After understanding his location in Ardmore, she took a baseball bat with her and her walking cane as she and her husband drove to her son's location. Renee stated that her walking cane was also a bladed weapon that she carried at times in the event that she was ever robbed or assaulted. Renee stated that they arrived in the area. She observed her son Jason attempting to get in the backseat of the car when a big male pulled him from the car and was assaulting him. Renee stated she observed another male in the area and exited the car to defend her son. Renee stated that the male that was fighting with her son had briefly had her son in a hold, and she used a walking cane to strike him once or twice in the back. Renee stated the sheath of the blade came from the cane, exposing the bladed weapon. Renee stated that the male assaulted her son, came at her, and she poked him, and she observed him falling to the ground. She did not recall striking him again after he fell to the ground. She stated that she attempted to open the trunk to place the weapon in the trunk, but could not do so. She stated they departed the area because she was scared, and the trio departed the area. Renee stated that at some point during the ride home, her husband stated, "I think you stabbed him." However, she recanted that statement. Renee confirmed that neither she nor her husband nor her son dialed 911 after the stabbing. She stated they drove to their residence, talked to the son, and went to bed. They examined the straight, long-edged weapon. The blade, absent sheath, measured 16 inches in length beyond the hilt of the weapon. Damn, she's literally walking around with a sword. Based on the aforementioned facts, your affiants respectfully request an arrest warrant for her for third-degree murder and related charges. So there you go. Poked. She went all OJ on his ass. Damn. So yeah, this one's going to be an interesting one. I mean, at what point? I mean, if it's on camera that she attacked him after he's already on the ground, self-defense is out the window for that. But, I mean, if she attacked him in defense of her son, in defense of others, look, there's a possibility. Is she related to Shad? No, I wouldn't think so. Yeah, look, this one's going to be interesting. Not calling 911 is extremely bad. It's not a good look, that's for sure. As is the fact that the license plate on camera is apparently bent up, and then when they got there, it was bent back. Sort of, it's pretty, like, it's circumstantial, but it's probably going to be pretty clear on the balance that they did it. Like, I can't really see a jury going, yeah, no, they didn't actually mess with that. Reckless endangerment? I wouldn't think so. Because that requires a certain level of negligence, whereas this is more than certainly an intentional act. I would fully expect that she may not get the third-degree murder charge. She may go down for manslaughter, but I fully expect that she's going to jail. And I'll be interested to see whether or not they charge the husband with any ancillary charges as well. So, all right. Do you have a Chinese smart box? Because apparently there's a bunch of malware going around. Chinese smart TV boxes infected with malware in Peach Pit ad fraud campaign. Bot defense software vendor Human Security last week detailed an attack that sold off-brand mobile and connected TV devices on popular online retailers and retail sites preloaded with unknown malware. Human named the campaign to infect and distribute the Android devices Bad Box. The infected devices were sold for under $50. So, yeah. Humans researchers found that 200 models with pre-installed malware, and when it went to shopping for several other devices, found that 80% of the units were infected with Bad Box. Analysis of the infected devices yielded intel on an ad fraud module humans researchers named Peach Pit. At its peak, it ran on a botnet spanning 121,000 devices a day on Android. The attackers also created malicious iOS apps, which ran on 159,000 Apple devices a day at the peak of the campaign. Those infected devices delivered over 4 billion ads a day, all invisible to users. So because they're displaying ads but without them being visible, they're raking in the advertising money. It's creative, yeah, it's clever. The infected devices delivered. The technical support on BadBot and Peach Pit describes the campaign as a Chinese manufacturer, possibly many manufacturers, building a wide variety of Android-based devices, including phones, tablets, and CTV boxes. At some point between the manufacturing of these products and the delivery to resellers, physical retail stores, and e-commerce warehouses, a firmware backdoor gets installed, and the product boxes are sealed in plastic, priming these devices for fraud on arrival at their destination. Human Security worked with Apple and Google to disrupt Peach Pit, but warned that Bad Box devices remain plentiful. Anyone who accidentally buys a Bad Box device online without ever knowing it is fake, plug it in and unknowingly open this backdoor malware. This malware can be used to steal personal identification personal identification information, run hidden bots, create residential proxy exit peers, steal cookies and one-time passwords, and use more unique fraud schemes. Basically, if you've bought an off-brand Android device, be it a phone, be it a one of the boxes that plugs into your TV, if it was less than $50, you may need to check whether or not it's listed on for being infected with malware. So, you joined locals. Thank you, Button Bella. I appreciate it. Captain Bippo, I'm going to bitch slap you. Oh, shit, I didn't mean to close that one. pumpkin weighing 2,749 pounds wins California. Did I pronounce that right? California. California. Sets world record for biggest gourd. A Minnesota horticulture teacher set a world record in California on Monday for the heaviest pumpkin after growing a giant jack-o'-lantern gourd weighing 2,749 pounds or 1,247 kilograms. Travis Geigner of Anoka, Minnesota, won the 50th World Championship Pumpkin Weigh-Off in Half Moon Bay, California, with an enormous, lumpy orange pumpkin that could produce at least 687 pies. Yes, because we all know the standard measurement of a pumpkin is pies. Damn it, now I want pumpkin pie. I was close. California. I was not expecting that. It was quite the feeling, the 43-year-old said, who has been growing pumpkins for nearly 30 years and last year set a new US record for growing giant gourd. Damn, that's a big pumpkin. That is a big pumpkin. The previous world record for the heaviest pumpkin was set by a grower in Italy who produced a 2,702-pound squash in... Oh, it was a squash. In 2021, according to Guinness World Records. Geigner grows his gourds in the pumpkin patch in his backyard. He said this year he decided to give his plants a little extra care, watering them up to 12 times a day and feeding and fertilizing them a bit more than usual. The landscaping and horticulture teacher at Anoka Technological College, a technical college, has been growing pumpkins since he was a teenager, inspired by his father, who also grew them. He first competed in Half Moon Bay's annual weigh-off in 2020 and has won 3 of the city's last 4 giant pumpkin contests. I put in the work so that I can put a smile on people's face, and it's just so nice to come here and see everybody in this town. Now, speaking of world records, I haven't pulled up the news article, but in a follow-up to our coverage of the 104-year-old woman that was trying to set the world record for jumping out of a plane, she unfortunately died a couple of days after the last attempt. So it's up in the air as to whether or not her record will actually be set, because she was alive at the time of doing the jump, unlike the guy that face planted into the neighbor's yard. But yeah, unfortunately, she passed away. So, yeah. Definitely mutant pumpkins. Maybe. Looks like someone took a belly of a fat guy and put it on display. Ew. Why would you not carve that and scare all the kids in your neighborhood? I think he still intends to. So. I didn't quite understand this one. The picture of Lizzo being loaded into an arena for a show. Oh, Porcelain Thunder! There's a link to the 104-year-olds in Stream Ideas. Oh, thank you. Well, that's okay, because I basically covered it anyway. Unfortunately, she passed away. Not from a, parachuting incident or anything like that. She didn't make it. I'm going to briefly talk about this, mainly because it's a very short story, but I had been following this one. Dancing Walker High student has been reinstated, and the principal has been made to apologize. Kaylee Timonet, a Walker High School senior who was blasted by her principal after she was videotaped dancing at an off-campus party following the school's homecoming, has been reinstated to the Student Government Association and will receive a scholarship endorsement and an apology from her principal. First, let me say that I have apologized to the Timonets, and I am hopeful that my scheduled meeting with Kaylee's mum will rectify this situation and allow Kaylee to enjoy the remainder of her senior year at Walker High School, said Principal Jason St. Pierre in a post on Sunday at the Livington Parish Schools on the Facebook page. He said he will be reinstating the 17-year-old's position on the Student Government Association and reinstating her scholarship endorsement. Finally, during my conversation with Kaylee regarding the dance party, the subject of religious beliefs was broached by Kaylee and myself. While that conversation was meant with best interests, I do understand it is not my responsibility to determine what students' or others' religious beliefs may be. That should be the responsibility of the individual. Meanwhile, she and her mother posted a video which is featured on the Unfiltered with Kieran website, disputing some of St. Pierre's statements in his post. Both mother and daughter noted that the deadline for the scholarship application was October 3, so they said they doubted whether or not he could have reinstated the scholarship. They also disputed his assertion that both he and Kaylee brought up the subject of religious beliefs in their initial meeting. 2 things I always taught my kids not to talk about. One is politics, the other is religion, said the mother. The principal's initial meeting with Kaylee sparked outrage from many residents and students. The school system spokesperson said last week that the school officials had planned to investigate the matter. Basically, she got caught on video twerking. And as a result of that, the principal decided that it would be a good idea to remove her scholarship endorsement to college and kick her off the student body council. He then made some very inappropriate comments about whether or not she had found Jesus and whether or not he believed that it was in her best interest and things along those lines. Where's the video? Click the link and let's... okay, all right. Let me just check that this is actually the... have they got the video on here, or is this just the other article? Doesn't look like they've got the video there. Hang on, let me see if I can pull it up, because I did look at a different news article about it. I'm pretty sure I can just search the name, which will be fine. Oh, there it is, New York Post. They're guaranteed to have the video, aren't they? Okay, they don't have the video itself. They have an image of the video. Okay, but this is the original article that I was going to look at, so I might as well just go through this one as well. Principal who removed high schooler from student government over twerking video requests leave. Yeah, the guy was that, freaked out by it that he needed to have paid leave time off. A Louisiana high school principal who rescinded an honor student's scholarship recommendation and kicked her off the Student Government Association over a twerking video has reversed course and requested a leave of absence following an uproar over the discipline. Walker High School President Jason St. Pierre put in an application with the local school district for leave of absence for the remainder of the school year after throngs of fellow students came out in support of senior Kaylee Timonet and called for his resignation. Last week, he pulled her into a one-on-one meeting in which he accused the public school student of not following God's ideals after a video of her dancing with a friend at an off-campus event was shared on social media. The 17-year-old was seen dancing behind a friend who was reportedly twerking at the private homecoming after party on September 30 in the footage, which has since been deleted. Let's clarify here. She was not actually twerking. Her friend was. She was at a party that it was private and had nothing to do with the school whatsoever. Why was he watching the video anyway? That's a damn good question, Captain Bipto. That's a damn good question. She's a minor, so probably not. Look, there's nothing actually untoward in the video, and that's why there's been such a huge outrage over this. Because it's literally just they're dancing at a party. And they do have a still shot. Everything else is blurred out except for identifying the particular student. But that's fine because that's just been shared around anyway. This is the dipshit that pulled someone into an office and said, I don't like the fact that you were twerking at a party. I'm taking away your scholarship. Like, what the fuck, dude? The DJ who worked at the event at the Livingston Parish Country Club and filmed and posted the video described the teens dancing as harmless and genuinely kids having fun. The student's mother had choice words for the principal, who claimed he unfairly targeted her daughter because she is a hood ornament of the high school. Lovely. And the video might not be shown because she's a minor. Oh, okay. The classmates quickly rallied behind her. I was going to say railed then. That could have been bad. Even selling t-shirts with the slogan, "Let the girl dance and I stand with Kaylee, damn it," which have been plastered across social media in solidarity. Like, she is a high achiever. She is like... Lucky I'm not her father, says Captain Bipto. Well, has he never watched Footloose? It's literally like real-life Footloose. Like, this was nuts. Following the groundswell of support, St. Pierre announced that he would reinstate her to the position of the Student Government Association and reinstate his endorsement for her for the scholarship program in a post on Sunday night. Well, hang on. Sunday night was the 8th. And the scholarships closed on the previous Tuesday. So yeah, I think the mother's right. I think him reinstating the endorsement for the scholarship is going to mean bupkis. As student government members are held to a high standard of student behaviour, he said in a statement. While I stand by that premise, I do believe that the standard deserves the input of not just myself and top administrators, but also of the student leaders. The principal has said he apologised to the senior and her mother in addition to taking corrective action. That's the video. That's what was posted by a DJ to a page. He was literally... Look, she's just dancing. Her friend, admittedly, is twerking, but it's irrelevant. The student's mother, however, said the reversal and apology took far too long. The scholarship was due on October 3. It's too little too late, she said to WAFB. St. Pierre mentioned reinstating the scholarship. I let him know that the scholarship deadline was done and the damage he has done to her is done. I also told him that I gave them the opportunity when I came in there at 7 o'clock the next morning to try and rectify the situation at that point. Now with somebody holding his hand, forcing him to do something, an apology is being enforced. It's too late. The high schooler said the outpouring of support that she had helped her through the challenge. If this poor girl misses out on her chance to go to college over this, I'd be fucking suing. I really would be. Usually the chaperones would just tell them to stop. Well, I mean, if it was something that was inappropriate, but I mean, having seen the video when it was first posted on New York Post, I don't see that there's anything inappropriate in that video. It's a pair of girls dancing at a dance. Why was he creeping kids' school activities outside school hours? He should be investigated. I think what happened was that there may have been another jealous student that forwarded it to him. In my own personal opinion, based on what I've read, I'm not 100% sure on that. Don't quote me. But yeah, actually, I want to try the thing. I want to try the. So what happens if I say, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons? Does the little thing flash? Damn it! Oh well. Just one more thing, they've lied to me. The video was not appropriate whatsoever. I was just so afraid that people were going to hate me after that, so seeing that people were supporting supporting me no matter what, and seeing my accomplishments were still noticed means the world. Yeah, the video was not inappropriate. There was nothing to that video. It's not like there was a poll there. Nope. Chaperones at a private party? Maybe. I mean, the video itself was taken by the DJ and posted to his Facebook page. How it wound up in the possession of this guy, I don't know. Do I really care? No, I do not. I genuinely believe he should have been keeping to the school and handling his own problems. Like, I don't feel bad for him whatsoever, given that he's now had to apply for having leave for the rest of the year, in the hopes that everyone will calm the F down, given that they're all calling for his resignation. Look, it may have been posted to the school's Facebook page. I don't know. I really don't know. But that's really where that came. Principal reminds me of one that I had in grade school that kicked me and other children out because our parents are divorced. Karma happened. He got arrested for 3 DUIs and the school closed. Damn. Wow. Okay. Why is this page still white? I have my... Okay, alright. Anyway. So apparently there's a Halloween candy that's been banned for Massachusetts trick-or-treating. We're just a few weeks out from Halloween, and Massachusetts residents are stocking up on candy as children of all ages get ready to take to the streets. Yeah, I've really got to buy a mixed bag. Parents in Massachusetts and the rest of the country have always been warned to check children's Halloween candy for any kind of drugs or sharp objects, but there is one type of candy that could be even more dangerous to your child. In fact, this type of candy is illegal to hand out at trick-or-treat. Interesting. Also, I did see that Newsom had signed the thing banning like Skittles and Red Dye number 3 or whatever the hell it is. Dude, you got bigger problems than what candy people are eating. Are you serious? Any candy or chocolate that contains over a certain amount of alcohol cannot be consumed or served to minors. I'm shocked. How did that become a thing? Like, why is that even a question? Someone finally banned candy corn. Candy corn gets a really bad rap. I don't know if it's just that the candy corn here tastes okay, but I don't mind candy corn. Candy corn. Now, I know what you're thinking. Candy and alcohol. Why would candy contain alcohol? And that's actually more common than you think, especially around the holidays. Small chocolates that contain booze, like the ones seen below, are a popular gift amongst adults. I find this strange. How... Is it not common that you guys have the liqueur-filled chocolates? Like, it's a reasonably common thing here. There you go. Mojito, Cosmopolitan, Margarita, Strawberry Daiquiri. They'd all taste terrible, but you're still going to stuff your face with them to get a little bit of a buzz on. Chocolates that contain alcohol are sold almost everywhere in the United States, but in Massachusetts. It's illegal to sell any candy that contains more than 1% alcohol according to Massachusetts.gov. In fact, the law states that whoever sells to a person any candy containing or enclosing liquid or syrup having more than 1% of alcohol shall be punished by a fine of not more than $100. The thought process behind the state regulation is pretty obvious. It's to keep adult products out of the hands of children. Well, they shouldn't be in the hands of children anyway. Don't quite understand how that would happen. The candy is often tempting to children, just like grown-ups, and probability of them consuming the alcohol by accident is pretty high. Okay, apparently that's where it ends. So keep an eye out for your mojito, cosmopolitan margarita, and strawberry daiquiri chocolates. Because, yum. Like, I don't understand how this is... Like, I get why this was news. I get it. You don't want kids eating alcohol-filled chocolates. But I kind of feel like it's also common sense. So why the fuck would you give it to the kid? No idea. Now in Texas, people sometimes give something more adult to parents that are with the kids. Neo Dark Matter, what did you hand out last Christmas? Last Halloween? Now I'm concerned. I'm so handing those out to kids. It's Halloween, says Captain Bipto. I don't give any legal advice in relation to that. Okay. Now, why did a Florida woman hurl a sausage at a gas station attendant? A Florida woman was arrested after she threw a sausage and a can of Coke at a gas station cashier during a heated altercation, according to Marion County Sheriff's Office. Deasia Cobb was arrested and charged with battery and disorderly conduct after the incident that unfolded last Wednesday at the Quick King gas station. According to the arrest affidavit, the cashier told deputies that the incident started when Cobb confronted her, saying she could have handled her two transactions at once, the affidavit said. The two reportedly spouted racial slurs at one another, causing the verbal altercation to turn physical. Yes, you could potentially hand out a bag of dicks. That's when Cobb allegedly grabbed a sausage from the hot tray and its tongs and hurled both at the cashier. It didn't say anything about whether or not there were tongs thrown. All I heard was sausage and a can of Coke. Where did the tongs come from? Cobb then left the store. The cashier grabbed the sausage off the floor, went outside and threw it at her car. Cobb retaliated by throwing a Coke can she just purchased and the same sausage at the cashier, who was standing towards the end of the counter. The soda can hit the counter and the cashier was able to get out of the way to avoid being hit by it. The store owner, who witnessed the entire incident, said Cobb needed to leave. However, she said she wasn't trespassed from the store, so she refused to leave, the deputy said. She loitered and taunted the store employee for 8 minutes. What? Why would the store owner not say, why would she not get trespassed? I don't understand this. Is it because they were worried about, they were hurling racial slurs back and forth? Was the owner worried about getting done for a hate crime? What the fuck is going on here? Cobb was arrested and transported to Marion County Jail on a $1,500 bond. She's since been released. Please let there be comments. Please let there be comments. It's apparent that she was very familiar to what being trespassed was. This is probably the only store that remains that hadn't trespassed her. This is the reason store owners are finding it hard to fill jobs. Employees fear for their safety. I'm finding it hard to condiment. Oh, God. So yes, that is why a Florida woman hurled a sausage at a gas station attendant. I'll be honest, the gas station attendant very much escalated this and continued it. She should not have went out and thrown the sausage back at the car. She shouldn't have done it. She just should not have gotten involved. It's just, when the sausage is on the ground, you leave it on the ground. Don't escalate. Just don't escalate. Where are we? An elderly couple is suing an art dealer after an African mask they sold to him for $158 was later auctioned for $4.4 million. An elderly couple who sold an African mask for $158 are now suing the art dealer after it went on to be sold for millions of dollars. The unnamed pair from Nimes, France, then? Nimes? It's French, who cares? We're clearing out the property in 2021 and decided to sell this quirky mask to a local dealer. In September of that year, they flogged it for all of $158 to a dealer known as Mr. Z, who then went on to make millions from it. You're not going to be able to sue him unless you specifically relied upon his expertise as to the value, and he lied to you. But good luck. He sold the piece of art, which was a traditional fang mask from a Gabon, used in weddings, funerals, and other rituals at an auction in Montpellier, a few months later for a staggering $4.4 million. Little did the French couple, aged 81 and 88, know how rare the item was, and only learnt of his successful sale when it was written about in the newspaper. According to Art News, the Fang mask was brought to France by the husband's grandfather, who had since been a colonial governor in Africa. They're now suing Mr. Z, who they believe cheated them. The lawsuit has been ongoing for a while, and as at June 28, the Court of Appeals ruled that their case appeared to be well-founded in principle and has since frozen the proceeds of the sale as the case continues. The disgruntled couple have argued that he knew the true value of the face mask before buying it from them for 0.003590900909% of the value of the price that it later sold for. The value of the mask is thought to date. The valuable mask is thought to date back to the 19th century and was originally valued at somewhere between £300,000, $317,000, and £400,000 or $423,222 when Mr. Z sought out professional advice. So Z received professional advice prior to purchasing it. There you go. In terms of the rarity, the court document seen by ArtNet read, the piece of kaolin-coated cheesewood is therefore exceptional in terms of its rarity, as only a dozen or so reference specimens are known to exist worldwide in Western museums and collections. Apparently, the dealer offered the French couple $300,000 in compensation in light of their complaint, but they rejected his offer. Their lawyer has argued... Fuck off, you lad. The lawyer has argued that Mr. Z is a second-hand dealer and not an antique dealer and cannot be considered a valuation professional. He has no knowledge of African art, they added. As it stands, their case remains open and will do so until a decision is made. It's currently being reviewed by a higher court, according to reports. What the hell is that? Pikachu and Van Gogh merch collab cards being sold on eBay for $2,500. Oh my god, are you serious? No, look... If one of two things have happened there, if he knew the true value and they asked him, what do you think this is worth? And he lied to them, they have a solid case there. Piece must be repatriated now. That would be funny if they get the money and then the piece gets repatriated back to Africa anyway. Why didn't they have it appraised? That's what I'm saying, Porcelain Thunder. If they went to him to have it appraised, he gave them a figure and then he offered to buy it from them for that amount. That's fraud. He's fucked them over. If they had no reason not to rely upon what he espoused as his expertise, they have a reasonably good case here. But anyway. Where are we? A mobile phone ban in schools gives students more learning time and freedom away from devices. Also, in the news, the sky is blue, water is wet, and I'm thirsty. When Grace Shoesmith's high school first introduced a phone-free policy at the start of the year, there was a mixed response from students. I was definitely anxious at first, just knowing that I wasn't going to have my phone on me, said co-captain of Katara High School in New South Wales, Hunter Valley. How is this a new thing? When I went to school, it was literally phones had to stay in your bag or your locker. And you put them in your locker because at least the locker had a padlock on it. Hello, Abomination. I haven't been ignoring you over on Rumble, but you have put through a whole heap of things. What sort of psycho puts that big number on there? Just say less than 0.04%. You're thirsty fake news. Nope. Welcome to Law News and Laughter, where the stories are bold and the beers are cold. I'm trying out a new tagline. Tell me if it worked or not. I was definitely anxious first. I think it took me about a month to get used to not being able to check my notifications and reply to messages. It is a reality that thousands of other students across the state are coming to terms with this week after a ban came into effect for all public high schools. Students spend up to 8 hours a day on devices, with at least 40% of those being on their phones, according to research at Griffith University's School of Applied Psychology. Who the hell is funding this? Jesus. We've grown up with an age of technology and it's something we have on us 24/7, Grace said. Especially for young people, we are a cohort who have missed those key developmental social years because of COVID. It's a reliance that Katara High School principal Mark Sneddon wanted to address. It is a concern in schools in terms of teaching and learning. It is a concern in terms of antisocial behaviour, and it's a growing concern with students not balancing their time. Individual schools will decide how to implement the statewide ban, which will apply during classes, recess and lunchtime. After consultation with students and parents, Katara High School was one of 8 schools in Newcastle and Lake Macquarie's region to introduce lockable pouches that students use to carry their phones with them, but not access. Before students enter the school grounds, they lock their phones in the pouch and show a teacher at the school gate. Once the school bell rings at 3:10, students can unlock their pouch at one of the magnetic locking stations around the school. I'm sorry, what? The phone goes into a pouch and you have to put it close to what could be a reasonably powerful magnet in order to unlock the pouch. Somebody didn't think that through. Yeah, of course the taxpayers are funding it, and yes, it is a lot of pouches. That's stupid. The co-captain, Linus Deming, said the transition was not easy. It's become a real struggle to live a usual life without having a mobile device, so obviously there were a number of students who weren't eager to be part of this. If I needed my phone, I had it there, so taking away that freedom has definitely been hard. Mr. Snedden said the school's phone-free policy has so far proved successful in the classroom, on the playground, and at home. Why would it have anything to do with being at home? Magnets don't hurt modern phones. Would they still not affect the speaker in your phone? I mean, for the most part, aren't they still... Hang on. Okay, I may be wrong on that. I fully accept that. I will look into it, just because now I'm curious. They have the same pouches at comedy shows. The lesson-by-lesson battle with phones in class is gone, so we're getting 5, 10, and maybe 15 minutes of teaching and learning time back. The playground is a lot louder because the students are talking and interacting. Parents are telling us that their kids are spending less time in their room at home because they've learnt to balance their time and have freedom away from their phones. Am I going to watch the Alex Murdaugh Lifetime movie? I doubt it. Magnets do affect cell phones. I thought so. I would have been very... I wasn't really interested in the Murdaugh trial because it was so fucking biased that I was just disgusted by it. In terms of what's going on and like the book and the Lifetime movie and documentary that may be coming out, honestly, it was one of those things where I found it reprehensible, really. I feel the same way about the Depp and Heard documentaries and that sort of thing. Like, don't get me wrong, doing the sidebars and taking the piss out of it, to me, that's fine. We're not really putting any sort of spin on it. Something like a Lifetime movie where someone's going to be profiting off of the situation, I'm not really a fan of that. Linus said that he has also found he uses his phone less at home. There are some afternoons that I need to keep my phone in the yonder pouch for my own personal sake, he said. It's doing me a huge favour, and I think it's doing a lot of favours for other students. For Grace, it's reduced personal stress. I don't have to worry about my phone notifications or things that you can sometimes feel pressured to look at, she said. New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia, Tasmania, and South Australia already have blanket phone bans in all state schools, with Queensland to follow next year. Child and adolescent psychologist Michael Carr Gregg, oh god, he's always the go-to. Get away! Led a 2018 independent review into mobile phones in schools that resulted in mobiles being banned in New South Wales primary schools. Why the hell were they having them in primary school anyway? The lived experience of many schools who had banned mobile phones was that it improved academic outcomes, I would expect so, reduced distractions and promoted a lot of social interaction, particularly at recess and lunchtime, which wasn't happening beforehand. I think increasingly there is a public pressure, particularly from parents, to make school a place of learning, not for mobile phone use. There's currently no national policy around mobile phones in schools, but Dr. Carr Gregg said that it was a no-brainer. I think the public demand for it is there, the political will is there. Sure, more regulation, why not? Get the kids used to it at school. My prediction is that there will be a blanket mobile phone ban from the first bell to the last bell in all states and territories by the end of next year. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Personally, I want my daughter to have the ability to contact me if for any reason, like... Because we know that there are instances where teachers don't do shit all about bullying. If my daughter, for any reason, gets physically assaulted or like is reduced to tears, I want her to be able to contact me if the teachers are not doing anything. Because then I'm going to raise all kinds of hell. Yes, I'm going to be one of those parents. I don't give a shit. I mean, the one time that I was assaulted at school, I was punched in the face, and like, it was sort of a coin toss as to whether or not I had to have surgery on my nose or some shit like that. I don't really remember the details. But what I do remember is being locked in a toilet stall in the boys' room and someone telling me that I just needed to go back to class and get on with things. From one of the teachers, and it was only, I think it was... Oh, no, that's right. No, it was actually the school that contacted my parents because the police got involved. I do remember that. I feel what you mean. Look, it's... What can I say? I'm overly protective. After all the news stories and everything that you see about kids being assaulted, kidnapped, injured, damaged, thrown into walls, hit, poked, stabbed, potentially shot, the world that I live in at the moment is I'm very fucking protective of my little girl. I'm always going to be. These assholes say it's to help kids, but really it's so kids can't show the garbage teachers are teaching them. Well, there is that too. And I miss the good old days when you used to be able to go in and audit a class. Like, at one point, you were able to actually go in and sit on your child's class and watch what they were being taught. You think you're allowed to do that anymore? No. Not to my knowledge, anyway. I think that used to be just ban things that'll stop people from obtaining and carrying them. Pretty well covers it. Can't even trust the teachers not to do something? Yeah. So, but anyway. Alright, I will talk about this one just because it's pissing me off. The government is taking steps to phase out check payments. The Albanese government is taking steps to regulate digital payment wallets like Google Pay and Apple Pay in the same way as other payment methods are managed. But there's also a next step in that they're phasing out check payments as flagged by the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, in a speech in June. This has pissed me the fuck off. Because one of the main things about operating a trust account as a lawyer is that I'm able to issue trust checks as part of my day-to-day practice. I have already been told by my bank that I am not going to be issued any more trust checks as of November this year. So if a client is unwilling to give me bank account details, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Yes, Chalmers is a fuckwit. I can happily say that. That is my opinion. The draft legislation announced on Tuesday would allow the Reserve Bank of Australia to regulate new and emerging digital payment services, which the federal government claims will protect consumers, promote competition, and spur innovation. I call bullshit. Regulation does not promote competition. Badly broke my finger at school and no one called my mum and it was never set correctly. Oh, shit. Sorry to hear about that, Deanna. Hopefully it doesn't give you too much grief. As payments increasingly become digital, our payment system needs to remain fit for purpose so that it delivers for customers, consumers, and small businesses, he said. We want to make sure that the shift to digital payments occurs in a way that promotes greater competition, innovation, and productivity across our economy. How about you stop with the fucking shift to fully electronic payments? How about you do that? I don't want a world where we don't have cash, or we don't have checks, we don't have negotiable instruments. I don't want the government tracking every single damn payment that I make for a loaf of bread, or that I pay someone to come and do my lawn. I don't believe the government should have the ability to see that transaction so that they can then tax the poor bastard. If they want to come in and clean up my garden for $50, as far as I'm concerned, the government shouldn't be charging them income tax on that. It's pathetic that they're doing this. And all it is so that they can have transparency and so that they can keep track of every single cent. And mark my words, people, this is an Australia problem at the moment, but I guarantee that this is being pushed by the WEF and that it's going to wind up being phased into other countries, including the US. We've already seen it with certain banks. Let's go back to gold coins. Abso-fucking-lutely. And yes, cash is king. Public consultation for amendments to the Payment System Regulation Act opens on Wednesday, which aims to update the definition of payment and payments to capture new payment methods that are widely used today and in the future. Speaking in June, he said check payments will be wound down to 2028, with legislative requirements for their use scrapped by 2030. Currently, 98% of retail checks that could be serviced through internet or mobile banking, and 100% of those used in institutional commercial settings. Leaving checks in the system is an increasingly costly way of servicing a declining fraction of payments. Excuse me. Government figures show 35% of total card transactions in the June quarter were made with digital wallets, up from 10% in early 2020. While RBA figures show nearly two-thirds of younger Australians between 18 and 29 use mobile payments, up from less than 20% in 2019. Yeah, because we had the bug, and you can't tell me... I'm starting to think that that's all connected. I really am. Because we had this massive thing where no one was allowed to go out, no one was allowed to use cash because it was dangerous. It was spreading the germs. And now all of a sudden they're going, oh yeah, let's move to digital where we can keep and track and control and freeze accounts, and we can make sure that certain things are not used in a way that we disagree with. I mean, there are a couple of the banks that are already saying, oh, we will freeze your accounts if we disagree with how you're using your money. I'm sorry, my hard-earned money is my hard-earned money. I don't give a rat's ass what you think, what your woke ideology is. Hell, I don't care if it's unwoke ideology. You have no goddamn right to decide what I do with my money that I have hard-earned. It's like they said, the Obama administration never let a good crisis go to waste. This is true. This is very true. Sorry for the rant. All right. And we'll cover over with this one just to finish off with a stupid story. US Navy officer saw a 300-foot triangular UFO above a house which blasted out radiation. A very senior US Navy officer supposedly witnessed a huge triangle-shaped craft above his house which blasted the area with radiation. Former intelligence officer turned whistleblower David Grouch famously claimed the US government has access to a crashed UFO and testified in front of Congress. He's now shared more startling stories from his sources within the military. He claims one Navy officer hadn't gone on the record over his UFO encounter because he had a lot to lose. According to David, the anonymous witness was super scared to come forward and even tell his wife about what he saw until 5 years ago. But the whistleblower, who has a background in psychological analysis, regards the man's account of his experience as completely credible. He recalled he was going to work at a certain facility in the morning, not drunk, not high, and a 300-foot triangular craft hovered over his car for a couple of minutes. He couldn't even process what he was seeing. But the bizarre encounter with the massive craft was more than just an unexplained sighting. The Navy officer says there was physical evidence left behind of the huge object. He took photos of his car after the incident, and the upper-facing parts of the car were all hit with ionizing radiation. It was ultraviolet because the paint became milky. His headlights totally went cloudy, and they had been completely clear. His car was perfect before the incident. I said, this is starting to sound like an insurance scheme. I said, holy crap, you have physical artifacts. The guy had a normal psychological composition, no weird belief system. He was just a dude that was going to work at a Navy base. He drew what he saw. The craft had made no sound, the witness said, but radiated weird omnidirectional lights. Before David began his investigations, he didn't believe in UFOs, and these guys can't be lying to me because they certainly are credible guys. Dude, you honestly think that people that appear credible can't lie to you? David told the US Congress earlier this year that he had personally spoken to around 40 people working within the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the AARP, who told him that the US government were holding intact and partially intact alien craft in a secret base. So there you go. 300 feet. Sorry. I may have misspoke. Oh, alright guys. I'm going to get out of here. It's been a bit of a crazy morning. I've got to get to work and get some things done, but as always, please remember, hit the like button, because you are not a piece of shit. You do have value and you do contribute to society, especially if you hit that like button for me. Double check whether or not you're subscribed and turn on the notifications. Don't care if you turn them on personalized for me, whether or not you turn on all notifications. But based on what I understand from YouTube, only like 6% of people have them turned on at all. That's not great out of 30,000. So, but anyway, as always, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise, and I will catch you all on the flip side. Wrong button. Wrong button. Fuck this shit, I'm out. See you guys.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.